welcome back to another great episode of hashtag Screw the W2. Hard to believe it. This is actually episode number 29 since I started doing this as a little side hustle or side project, I should say, on YouTube. And this week I wanted to bring on Randy Wilson, who I've networked with actually about almost 2 years ago now at a real estate guys summit on sand. Had a lot of common interest. Also, both of us invested with Mid-South home buyers. So obviously we kind of connected. With that, Randy, welcome to the show.
Appreciate it, John. Glad to be here. Hopefully
Yeah,
add some value here to your listeners. So thanks.
you bet. So now obviously, you're involved in several things. And obviously I know at the time I talked to you, you had 5 investment properties with Mid-South. I know you've sold off some because with the crazy appreciation, it's like, well, I can't really blame you. But if you can kind of take us back in time per se, before all that started, what was your last or previous W-2 job?
My W-2, and let me say, screw the W-2. I love that. That's funny. That was obviously a life journey of mine. And so yeah, I'm glad to share. Uh Most recently, my last W-2, I worked for Coca-Cola.
Oh,
I was
okay.
a sales rep for Coca-Cola, account sales. So basically I had 15 to 20 accounts that it was my
Okay.
responsibility to order, maintain, rotate, um, basically the inventory of Coca-Cola and their products within
Sure.
certain stores, from anywhere from a C store, which is a convenience store, all the way up to large grocery stores, Walmart's, Kroger's,
Okay.
you name it. So I had everything in between. So yeah, it was my responsibility to take care of my accounts, manage
Okay.
my product, but then also manage my managers as well, or my customers.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So, all right.
Yeah.
And then with that, what was like an average day for you? Or were you up, was it a standard 9 to 5, or were you like 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., or how was that?
It was day to day. So that
Okay.
job itself actually was a upgrade in the amount of time that I was able to spend. So the
Hmm.
previous job to that, I was in retail management for a grocery chain,
Oh,
which is how
okay.
actually I had the connection into Coca-Cola, was through my retail.
Ah, gotcha.
So my retail job, I it was almost 24/7. So even
Yep.
if I wasn't in the building as the manager of the store, I was responsible for everything inside and out.
Hmm.
When I actually stepped back, meaning I went from the salary I had as a store manager. I actually took a step back from salary to get my time. I
Hmm.
was in that transition of realizing what I hadn't learned, as far as financial education and personal development and in the investing world and that kind of thing. So I knew that I needed time to learn. So I stepped back, went to Coca-Cola. My day there would start, I'd leave the house 5, 6 in the morning. I had about a 45 hour or 45 minute commute,
Sure.
excuse me, 5 minute commute. So I'd get to my first location between 6:37.
Wow.
I would work until the job was done. Like I said, I had 20 some odd accounts. Some days it would last till 5, 6 o'clock at night. Other days, to be quite
Oof.
honest with you, I'd be done by 2 or 3 and I shut it down then. I mean, it was a salaried position with
Hmm.
some commission base on there as well.
Sure.
So if I worked 100 hours or 10, I mean, as long as I was doing my job, uh,
Right.
I didn't really have too much hassle. So, yeah, I had long days. Holidays were always hassles,
Yep.
meaning, if you can imagine, obviously these stores are busy
Yep.
during the holidays. So unfortunately, my life got busier during the
Hmm.
holidays, which then I was always grateful when those were over, because then you can always take a little bit of a breather after the fact. So
Sure. Yeah, between high school, college, and then a little bit after college, I spent almost 10 years in grocery, so I
yeah,
can definitely kind of share and appreciate some of that pain. And whenever I hear the adage of "there's no such thing as a stupid question," I'm like, well, you better work retail then you'll know,
yeah.
then you'll hear it.
Retail is, if yeah, if you're complaining about things as far as service and things out there in the world, I mean, it's if you work retail, you'll learn pretty darn quick the demands, the requirements. I'm not saying and service is perfect out there by any means. I'm not saying that at all. I have
Right.
found service everywhere I go, but at the same time, when you work retail, you get a different perspective of what it's like, not only to have a lot of things happening in a daily basis, but also to have to deal with the customer. I mean, you're face to face with your customer and a
Yep.
lot of them every single day.
Right.
So the demands are pretty tough. But at the same time, it prepared me for next steps, which I'm
Hmm.
I'm super grateful for. I didn't realize it at the time, but obviously now that I've gotten to this point now, I'm super grateful for that experience.
Cool. So now with that, whether it was at the grocery store, the transition to Coca-Cola, was there like a particular moment that you remember that where you wanted to say screw the W-2, or this isn't, the life for me, or I want to get my time back, or, what was the pivotal moment where you realized there's got to be a better way?
So yeah, I'll go back to my grocery store days. As I
Okay.
said, I was in the retail management and I was working a lot, probably
Hmm.
60, 70, 80 hours a week, if not more. I mean, I can't tell you exactly. It was a salaried position. But
Sure.
what I will tell you is that at one point they actually came in and they closed my location unannounced. So I was my supervisor
Wow.
came in one morning, um, and it was an odd experience because he never showed up that early in the day. So I knew something was up, and he took me in the office and said, Randy, the performance of the location wasn't great, and I knew that, but I was doing everything I could to improve the profits and the sales and all those kinds of
Hmm.
things. Um, like I said, the blood, sweat, and tears of everything I did. And anyways, for them to take that away, it made me sit back and question why why? You know what I
Yep.
mean? Why? I realized really quick that it didn't matter how much effort I put into the position, that
Hmm.
at any moment, someone was in control of my life. And that was the beginning point of me starting to question everything. Because up until that moment, I was a diehard working W-2 guy. I was a corporate
Yep.
guy. I was trying to get up the corporate ladder of this local grocery chain.
Hmm.
Um, and when that happened to me, I realized that something was odd, that I was
Yeah.
missing something, which led me then to go seeking out that information. And I started um, libraries at the
Yep.
library in the day. Retire Rich, Retire Young. Robert Kiyosaki's book was the very first book I picked up.
Oh, okay,
And
cool.
yeah, so it wasn't Rich Dad Poor Dad for me. It was Retire Rich, Retire Young.
Okay.
That book jumped off the shelf at me when I was at the local library,
All right.
and I dove into that, and it started to share information that I wasn't aware of when I was blown away. And
Hmm.
at that moment, as I was devouring that information, I was deciding, I wouldn't say, I mean, that moment was definitely a decision making moment, but at the same time, I was deciding that the W-2 thing wasn't the answer. And I was going to try to
Right.
figure out, hence I did, right? Figuring out how to get rid of my W-2 through investing and through different business opportunities and that type of thing. Sure.
Cool. All right. And from obviously we've read a lot of the same materials. I mean, I've loved those books. My favorite still is Cash Flow Quadrant, but everyone's had their, first Robert Kiyosaki book or favorite one.
Right.
From the time that you had that shall we say moment where your manager came in, like, yep, we're shutting the store down, to when you clocked out for the last time, I'm guessing obviously at Coca-Cola, but how
Mhm.
long of a time span was between those 2 points?
So when I was when they closed the store, that was in 2007.
Mm,
2010 is when I went to work for Coca-Cola. So
okay.
about 3 years. So I still stayed on with they closed my store, but they changed me to a different location.
Okay,
So I
gotcha.
didn't lose my job, which I was obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously, I was a little bit grateful for because I still had a family and that kind of thing.
Right.
But I didn't have to make a massive pivot. But I used that opportunity then to start working my time better with education. So 3 years until I got the Coca-Cola job. And then Coca-Cola, I left them in 2017. So it
Okay.
was probably about 10 years from beginning of me realizing till the day that I left my last job per se
Sure.
was in June of 2017.
Okay.
Um, and I had worked hard enough and I had planned well enough,
Hmm.
and through corporate or cooperation with my wife, I mean, we made some sacrifices and did some things to the point where I was able to go figure out how to generate through my own personal, right, whether it be investments or other businesses, to generate
Sure.
enough income to at least cover the bills. When obviously
Yep.
that was the
Makes
support
sense.
of
So, all
yeah.
right. And then was it about that time was your first investment real estate with Mid South, or what other businesses or income streams did you acquire after that or during before you left June of 2017?
Yeah, it all started right around that 2017 mark. So it's
Okay.
been just about 5 years of total investing. The time up to that was a lot of education, right?
Hmm.
Reading, listening, applying small things, right? To trying to figure it out because I'm 100% self-taught. I've had a few coaches, but not a lot, and
Sure.
very little mentorship. I don't have many family members or even a lot of friends that know or talk like we are right now,
Yep.
right? About business and investing and things. So I was self-taught. So I was a little bit of a slow beginner because I was very cautious with my family and that type of thing.
Hmm.
Um, so my first, well, when I first started, when I left the job, I worked Uber and I drove Uber and Lyft in the morning. So
Okay.
but I treated it like a business. I
Sure.
went out and bought a car. I depreciated the car. I was able
Hmm.
to track mileage, you know what I mean? And I treated it 100% like a business. And so I was able to get some benefits for that on top of obviously generating a few $100. It's probably about 150, maybe $200 a day doing
Okay.
that, driving Uber and Lyft. That was back 2017, 2018.
Okay.
But then when I would do that in the mornings. And then when I was done doing that, when I was done driving, say I drove through the morning or afternoon lunchtime. So about noon, 1 o'clock, I would shut it down and I would go work on my other business, which my other business was the beginning of the Amazon business that we've spoken
Okay.
about. Sounds like we'll
Sure.
probably talk a little bit more about that here in a little bit. So I did Uber and Lyft in the morning, working my Amazon business and getting that built up in the afternoons.
Okay.
And then I was starting to invest in some single family properties, as you mentioned with Mid South. I had it up to five properties
Okay.
was the most I had had. And as you mentioned, I did liquidate a few of those earlier this last 2022. So
Yeah.
I'll stop there and see if there's anything that sparked any other questions for
Yeah.
you. What do
No,
you
no,
want?
I appreciate that. And yeah, even myself, I mean, it's been kind of got a little itchy finger, so to speak, of buying real estate. But like you said, the market's gotten so crazy. And I've talked to investors like, I can't believe how much I got for insert duplex, single family, whatever. It's like, well, it's great if you're a seller. I want to be a buyer. So I'm just going to step back and wait things cool down a little bit. So, but with that, I was kind of curious. Obviously, you started this journey through investing, your Amazon business, which we'll go into for my podcast portion of this. But whether it was the grocery store at Coke or maybe in both of them, is there anything in particular you do miss about the W-2 lifestyle or your W-2 work?
The only thing I would say is that there are still a few of my friends that I don't
Hmm.
obviously see or communicate with as much as I did. I the Coca-Cola days, they were challenging, but
Hmm.
the group of people that I worked with, we had a lot of fun.
Okay.
So I miss those guys and gals.
Mhm.
And I still am in communication with one or two of them, but there was probably a handful of us, probably five or six of us that almost communicated daily
Okay.
uh, via phone or via text or whether email, something like that. So
Sure.
I miss that, but at the end of that's I would almost say that's about it. I
Okay.
don't miss I don't miss having to get up first thing in the morning if I don't choose to, right? I mean, I
Right.
can choose to get up that early in the morning or I could stay up late. I can do whatever I want at this point. So no, beyond the two or three or four people that I became pretty close with, that I worked with them for 8, 9 years side by side. That's about the only thing I really miss at this point.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. I always like asking that question. And there's some people it's like, well, I really miss the insurance because the premiums were cheap. Or like
Mm.
you said, coworkers is probably the most common. But still remember one guest, he had just a flat out no. He didn't miss the coworkers. He didn't miss anything. It's like, okay, well, here we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was just lucky to have a few friends there that I enjoyed. That I do miss those guys every now and then. I try to keep up with what they're doing, but
Sure.
beyond that, the corporate W-2,
Yeah.
all of that, I don't miss it one bit.
Yeah, I left the corporate lifestyle in 2019. I will never ever subject myself nor my family to that ever again. So,
That's to be if you have to, right? If worst case scenario, if you have to, but at the
right.
same time, if you don't, if you can, there's so many different ways to make money out there in the world these days that
Exactly.
if you just put some feelers out there and learn and apply and try, right? I mean, you shouldn't have to if you're out there actually doing some of the work and some of the things I'm sure you're discussing a lot of times here on this podcast. So yeah,
Exactly.
definitely for
So,
sure.
all right. Now, on the flip side of that, obviously, the with the challenges of the W-2, but since then you started in your journey, investments, business owner, etc. What's been like the best thing about your journey so far?
The growth I've had to do. Um, my my pillars of what I try to discuss or when I talk about when I'm either talking with other folks or not is the financial education along with the personal development. So the personal development was the another piece that I wasn't exposed to growing up into my 30s. And I had there again, I'm self-taught. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't
Yeah.
realize what that growth would do for me, both personally and professionally, right? So as I
Mm-hmm.
keep continuing to get better personally, my professional life continues to get better as well, and my relationships. And so that's been the most fun thing for me. That every time I seem to take another leap into a growth period personally, everything else gets better as well. And so that's been the most fun part. So any of the challenges that I've had, and I've had some, I don't want to make it sound like it's been,
Sure.
you know, roses and sunshine every day, because it hasn't been. But at the same time, it's allowed me to step into those with some confidence, and then to get some results and then pivot as necessary. So it's been fun. So definitely the growth part, the personal development part has been the most fun and rewarding part of this journey for me.
All right. Sounds good. So now for any of now I know obviously you do some coaching as well for some of your students, but for anyone out there listening, maybe they're in a similar situation, they just feel maybe stuck at their corporate grind, or maybe a similar institute is like, well, gosh, my boss just came in yesterday and closed down our store, and I have to move 100 miles or whatever, but they're just maybe not brave enough or confident enough to side hustle, start a side gig, a business, investing, whatever. What advice would you give to them?
The first part that I received really back in the day was that I had my 45-minute to an hour commute that I mentioned, I turned my car into that audio education, right? Or that
Mm-hmm.
traveling education. This was back before podcasts. This was more
Mm.
CDs and DVDs and that kind of, not DVDs, but
There's a
CDs.
Gen Z or listening to this level. What's a CD?
Yeah, what's a CD? And so I was devouring content
Mm.
as fast as I possibly could. And then there again, it was about a 10-year period that I was devouring different information, whether it be from business or real estate or personal development, right? Those are probably the three things that I was focusing on the most. But so yeah, just take whatever time you have available, even if it's your commute time, especially with podcasts these days.
Yep, exactly.
Um, you can get so much personal education, right?
Mm-hmm.
Self-education done in a relatively short period of time. You'll be surprised. I'm good at speeding up 2 times speed. Like I
Yeah,
can, I'm
I
so
go
I'm
one
an
and a half
audio
personally, but yeah.
I'm an audio learner, and so I'm able to do that and do it relatively well. So I can pound through content like there's no tomorrow.
Okay.
Um, but at the same time, you know, if you can't do that, I get that. But just if you speed up to a minute, or 1.25 or 1.5 or something like that, you can really gain a lot of information and knowledge for folks, from others that are either doing or have done what
Mm-hmm.
you want to do, and just get in the room with those folks. And even if it's a virtual room, I would recommend that the most.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. No, good advice. So, all right. Well, as we close out this part of the show here, Randy, what would as we're starting off in 2023 here, are there any new projects, new businesses, or I don't know, new investment properties that you're starting up or really excited about with the coming year?
Yeah, I'll try to keep this brief. Yeah, super excited about 2023. One thing I learned from Robert Kiyosaki back in the day was business, assets, then lifestyle. So I've
Yep.
focused on trying to build up my businesses that then go out and purchase my assets, my real estate assets or other assets, and then that's going to support my lifestyle.
Cool.
We went through this liquidation event in 2022, sold a few of our rental properties, and actually
Yep.
sold our personal residence as well. My
Oh,
wife
really?
and I were actually in the process of acquiring a wedding venue slash event space.
Oh,
That's
okay.
our big project. So we're have I assume that you've played the cash flow game. Have you played
Oh,
this
yeah,
one?
many times.
Got
More
that in the
online than the
background.
board game, but yeah.
Okay, I've got that in the background over here. Anyways, that I'm playing the game in real life. And so
Hmm.
if anybody that's played the game, as far as going from the small deals to the big deals and what I mean, all those kinds of things, that's where we are in our journey. We're in the process of moving from the smaller deals into the larger
Mm.
deals, which then, as if you have played the game, you realize then the game becomes a lot more fun. Let's put it
Yep.
that way. So,
And faster
yeah,
because you're on the fast track then. So,
yeah, there you go. So
yeah.
yeah, that's probably the big project, 2023. Hopefully
Okay.
have that done by middle of the year, and then it'll be a matter of getting it settled in. You know what I mean? Get us in the groove, get our systems and processes in place,
Sure.
and do the operations thing. So yeah, that's kind of the plan so far.
Cool. No, sounds exciting. And yeah, definitely wish you the best of luck on that. So, all right.
Appreciate that.
All right. Well, as we're getting to the last part, and again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to join me and my listeners. For all those listening out there, be sure to catch the second part of this interview on the Wealth and Freedom Nexus podcast, where we do a little bit more of a deep dive into the world of Amazon and what Randy has learned on that. You can find that on your favorite podcast platform, whatever that is. That will be episode 75, dropping this coming Wednesday, March 22nd. Until then, thanks for your listenership, and hope one day you can say screw the W2 as well.